morning, everyone. My name is Idela Izzati. I'm a laboratory officer of the Illicit Drugs Lab from Health Sciences Authority, HSA. Okay, there are two parts to my sharing session. The first part is about how I got into this current role, and the other part will be drug testing and then my personal vision of the industry. I took the route of secondary school, JC, university, and then work. And generally, I am usually interested to know how things work. So after secondary school, I took my science stream in JC, taking H2 chemistry, maths, and econs. I did my undergraduate study of chemistry and biological chemistry in NTU for 4 years. On the second last semester, I was posted to HSA's Illicit Drugs Lab for internship. Okay, there are a few education pathways as a science students can go. You can apply for a job straight after graduation, like me, or continue post-graduation studies like master's or PhD, or even do part-time studies while working. Okay, now let me share with you a bit about what it is like to work in an analytical lab. As you can see here, it has a wide scope of science, having job opportunities for biology graduates, physics graduates, and of course, chemistry graduates. The Illicit Drugs Lab provides analytical services to law enforcement agencies, consultations and trainings in the analysis of drugs of abuse, undertake investigations and research in the analysis of drugs of abuse, assist in the investigation of clandestine laboratories. Mainly, we do qualitative and quantitative analysis of drug seizures, heroin, cannabis, ice, ketamine, and so on. Qualitative means what drug is inside, while quantitative means how much of the drug is inside. Our main clients are from the law enforcement agencies. Our stakeholders are the Attorney General's Chamber and the Courts of Justice, whereby our analysis reports are presented as evidence for the administration of justice. The report given by IDL, my lab, the Illicit Drugs Lab, containing the results will be used in court, which helps in determining the sentence of the accused, either not guilty, how much jail term, death sentence, and so on. So for example here, CNB will submit their evidence suspected to contain illicit drugs. When the case gets assigned to us, we will work on an exhibit following a workflow depending on the nature of the drug, guided by SOP, Standards of Procedure. There are many quality assurance put in place to ensure that our work is done accurately. So there is documentation of the exhibit and with sampling and solution preparations into lab apparatus for running instrumental analysis. And then the results produced will be reviewed and report will be issued and sent back to CNB. We are constantly looking into ways to make our processes better, to increase efficiency and productivity, and perhaps also innovate new ways to do things. And sometimes the project gets chosen to be presented in overseas conferences. So like in 2018, my team presented at the Asian Forensic Sciences Network, AFSN in Beijing. It was a good opportunity to meet other forensic scientists from other parts of the world. And it was also interesting to hear their drug trends and techniques as well. So to be a science professional, skill-wise, you will need a qualification and a strong background in science, be it a diploma, bachelor's, or postgraduate. You should be well-grounded. As forensic science, you will need to put in effort to know the science, concept, and principle behind each instrument and method used, because only when you understand, then you can apply. So it's also good to have lab skills, which we are usually exposed to in school anyway. Problem-solving skills is always useful to troubleshoot instruments or solve cases that are not so straightforward. Value-wise, it is good to have interest in science in the first place, eager to learn new things as science is constantly evolving. And from a forensic science professional point of view, you must have integrity and transparency because you help to uphold justice. You must know your purpose. As a science professional, you are non-biased and you work on the area of your expertise and knowledge only in order to meet an accurate outcome. So from my personal experience, most of the time I learned through on-the-job training. It was a steep learning curve as I had to go through many competency assessment and proficiency tests before I can even finally start my casework. But I also like working in the lab because it is work using my hands and we usually have to walk around in the lab, so to go to different workstations. So it is not desk bound. So this is the end of my sharing for the first part. I pass it back to you, SD, Dr. SD. Thank you.
Thank you, Adelia, for sharing your, I know a lot of the audience are very interested in your line of work based on the questions. But for now, I'll hand it over to Dr. Eliani, who will share her experience of becoming a science professional in her job. Over to you, Dr. Eliani.
Thank you, SD. Good morning to all of you. Right, so first, just to introduce myself, I am in my late 30s. I am a mother of 3 young children. A lot of the work I do now, I always look for purpose and meaning. That's how I stay motivated and keep going in my day-to-day job. I think my experience will be a lot more relevant for those who are looking to pivot from a lab-based job or research, but still stay in the science sector. I also did formal education in Singapore. I did JC, and then I went to NUS. So I did biomedical science in NUS. But what I'm showing here in the top line really is the number of years and the effort I had undertaken to pursue research. I did a couple of lab internships, and then in my third and final year of undergraduate, subsequently, I pursued a scholarship with A-STAR to do my PhD. So that took me another 5 years, and then I did 2 years of postdoctoral research. I was not, in a sense, getting fulfilled in doing the work I was doing in research and on the lab. So I pivoted out. In 2015, I took on a role at A-STAR headquarters to look at technology development, R&D programs, grant administration with the Biomedical and Research Council, largely in the areas of medical technology and digital health. So as you know, digital health is one of those areas that at the fore, it's coming out. It's been there for a few years, but it still has a long way to go. So a lot of potential, a lot of opportunities in that sector. After about 5 years in that role, I transited over to a corporate planning and strategy role. So this one, I was in the Deputy Chief Executive Office for corporate at A-STAR. And then in the last year, I've moved over to Hilleman Laboratories. So this is a private biotech company that is now in Singapore, largely doing sort of the same role, looking at corporate planning and strategic initiatives, as well as business operations. And I'll get to what that means in a bit, because a lot of it is when you look at this role that I'm doing, sometimes I question myself, where is the science? But basically in 3 sort of big boxes, I do strategic engagement, communications, both internal and external communications, as well as corporate planning. And this all comes from very deliberate efforts. It's not necessarily organic in order to have a company move smoothly. So again, going back to my earlier question, I look back, where's the science? I did research 10 years. So to me, this is a matter of perspective. The way I look at it now is I spend all that time in that sector doing research. So I use that now as leverage. So now when my boss asks me that networking is important, just understand what you do and who else does it, and then keep that information with you because it will come in handy later on. So what should you do for undergraduates or people who are about to enter the workforce? Okay, so when you are starting your career and entering the sector, what I would say is find someone in that role that you see yourself in and talk to that person. I think attending this kind of session is a great start because that's where you start to reach out to people who you think are in the roles that you want to pursue. For example, a lot of you want to pursue forensic sciences or work with HSA. This is your opportunity to connect with Adelia. Answer your specific questions. I think we saw some questions also. What subjects should I take? Should I pursue further studies? Talk to people who have walked the journey before you, and then figure out for yourself if that is what you want, and then you can start to chart your path. Always understand what's going on outside. Talk to people who are in the know about what's going on outside. So I think there was a little bit about key insights about how the landscape is developing or evolving and things like that. So if you had paid attention to the biomedical science sector in Singapore, you would have seen that in the last 20 years, there was constant evolution, where it largely started with very much research and discovery. But now we're also seeing that in Singapore, because we are also going into a lot of manufacturing and production. But I wanted to highlight that when you start going into production, but more and more so, there are new industries coming up. And everyone knows mRNA vaccines now because of COVID, right? And because of the attention it's gotten, they've actually received a lot of investment and they are coming to Singapore and they're opening big plants and looking to hire or have about 100 roles in technical roles. And these are roles that typically are filled by diploma and degree holders as well. And pay attention to the news when these companies are coming out to Singapore. What roles are they hiring for? And then see what kind of roles they're hiring for. And it could be something that is relevant to you if you're coming from the sciences sector. So lots of opportunities there. Just keep an eye out and talk to people. And so I come to the end of my portion. We are also always encouraged, I think, at various Mendaki events to connect with each other on LinkedIn. So I'm happy to open lines of communication. Anybody wants to reach out and ask about the work I do or how to get into the corporate sector for sciences, I'm here for you.
So being in the science sector for a decade makes me witness many changes throughout my course of work. I believe that this move can be experienced almost everywhere. From writing documentation into worksheets. Last time we used to write our documentation into worksheets, then it has been transformed to be recorded digitally. So this picture you see here is actually our LIMS software that we use every day and contains all the information we need to proceed with our daily work. Another important feature is that it prevents transcription error. So having inclinations towards IT is a plus point, or else we should embrace lifelong learning to upkeep with advanced technologies. There also seems to be an increase in interest in data analytics, which is a systematic computational analysis of data or statistics. With knowledge in this, there could be better interpretation of patterns for good decision-making and solutions. I feel that working in the science field is purposeful as we do important work to help or give back to the society. And lastly, I feel that it's exciting to be working in the science sector as there is always something to learn, innovate, or discover. Workplace is all about problem solving, creativity, collaboration, research, and most importantly, continuous learning.